All right, all right. So this guy is going to be going over the best 3 exercises that men over 40 need to know what and how to do. So I coach dads, and I've been doing this for 15 years. My name's Mike Over, and I've been featured in ABC News, and I definitely relate to this. So I want to make sure that this guy's giving the best advice. So let's see what he has to say here.
If you're a man in his 40s, it's likely your priorities have shifted a bit. Whether it's kids, a wife, work, or all of the above, you don't want to spend 2 hours in the gym each day like you did in your 20s. You just want to be able to show up, get your lifts in, and be done. And since you don't have too much time in the gym, you want to make sure you're making the most of it. The last thing you want to do is wander around the gym aimlessly, not knowing what you should be doing, or even worse, injuring yourself in the process. The truth is, there's no need to do crazy long workouts like you may have done in your 20s. You can get the exact same results, if not better, by spending less time in the gym when you're a bit more purposeful. You see, as you get older, sometimes less is actually more. And that's why today I'm going to share the only 3 exercises you need for muscle growth, specifically for men over 40. These 3 exercises will accomplish 2 things. First, we've selected exercises that will give you the best bang for your buck. In other words, they're easy to load and they target multiple muscle groups to a...
Before we begin on 3 exercises, let me first add in an insight. If you were to only do 3 exercises the rest of your life, would you be happy? Would you want to still do them after a year, 2 years? You're only doing 3 exercises. So let's start there. Because a lot of things of why dads want and are able to train is because they need some excitement. They need some variety. And so oftentimes, while yes, 3 exercises can be a good base, just only doing them forever is probably already not going to be the best bet. So that's my first little hint here.
Significant degree. Second, the trio was selected strategically to ensure a balanced physique. To ensure this, we've selected 1 multi-joint pushing movement that will target every upper body pushing muscle, 1 multi-joint pulling movement that will target every upper body pulling muscle, and 1 multi-joint leg movement that will target the entire lower body. So without further ado, let's jump in. Number 1, low incline bench press. One article published in the Journal for Interventional Medicine and Applied Science found that training routines that included just the bench press, or any variation of it, seemed to be adequate enough to stimulate overall chest development. Research also suggests that the bench press 1 rep max is tightly correlated to pec size and strength, meaning the bigger you bench, the bigger your pecs, at least to a degree. But why a slight incline over a traditional flat bench press? To answer this question, we have to look at some EMG data, showing the level of activation in the pecs, delts, and triceps during bench pressing movements of varying degrees. One study published in the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health sought to answer the question of which bench press variation will give you the best bang for your buck. To accomplish this, they placed electrodes over the lower, middle, and upper chest alongside the triceps and front delts. They found that at a 30-degree angle, activation of the anterior delts and upper fibers of the pecs was maximized. For the lower and middle fibers, traditional flat bench was best, and there was little to no difference in tricep stimulation across all angles. Looking at the graph, however, you can see that 15 degrees is not only great for hitting all fibers of the pec, but also elicits more activation of the deltoids. Most people will notice that they can do substantially more weight on a flat bench than a traditional incline of about 45 degrees. So this low incline variation gives you the best of both worlds. Not only is it easier to load than the traditional incline variation, but it also produces more activation in both the upper chest and delts. To perform this exercise, place an adjustable bench into a rack and place the bench in the first setting. The first setting on most benches is roughly a 15-degree angle. No need to get too technical here, as we're just looking for a slightly elevated bench. Similar to a flat bench press, we want to achieve a stable shoulder position by creating an arch in the back and squeezing your shoulder blades together to maximize our force-producing potential. This setup allows us to place more load not only on the pecs, but the smaller muscles assisting with the lift, i.e. the shoulders and triceps as well. The bar path will be pretty similar to that of the flat bench press. When it comes to pressing, imagine pushing yourself into the bench, as much as you're thinking of pushing the bar up and back towards the rack. And as always, make sure to maintain the 3 points of contact: your glutes, the back of your head, and your feet, all firmly planted into the bench and ground respectively. Number 2.
All right, so with a recap of number 1, I'm a fan. Now, he even comes out with research, which I'm a big fan of. When it comes to exercise, stimulation, activation, hypertrophy, and muscle growth, nothing beats data, right? So yes, the small incline bench press is fantastic, and I love it simply because of what he does state. It's not only going to hit your pecs, it's going to also involve delts and a little bit of triceps. And let's be honest, it's the setup of it is so much easier, and most gyms don't even have more than 50-pound dumbbells. So yes, a little bit lighter weight can even go longer way. Lots of good benefits with this light incline. So I'm a fan. Great tip. That's a good exercise.
Pendlay Row. This compound movement targets all of the upper body pulling muscles, and it's also the best exercise for applying load through your entire back musculature. On top of that, since every rep is initiated from a dead stop, the momentum is removed from the equation, reducing the risk of injury. The exercise acts as a hybrid between a barbell row and a chest-supported row. As the arms are in a higher degree of shoulder flexion when performing a Pendlay Row versus a traditional barbell row, it's safe to say that there is a greater stimulus on the lats, as their main function is shoulder extension. This exercise also hits the traps, rhomboids, rear delts and biceps, as well as the spinal erectors. This is important to note as the spinal erectors are extremely important to giving thickness to the back, given the fact that they run the length of the entire spine. To set up for the Pendlay Row, stand with your feet at roughly shoulder width, with the bar just over the front of your foot. Hinge back, positioning your chest almost parallel to the floor. If hamstring tightness is an issue here, you can always perform this movement off some bumper plates or blocks. From here, grab the bar with a pronated, overhand grip at about shoulder width. If you're feeling too much pressure on your lower back, it's likely your grip is too wide. Unlike a barbell row, where we first deadlift the weight up in order to get into position, we will instead be lifting directly from the ground here. It's important that you keep a strong shoulder position. This can be done by retracting or squeezing our shoulder blades together. There is EMG evidence to suggest that keeping your scapula retracted throughout a rowing movement leads to higher lat activation, so focusing on this is vital, specifically if you want to maximize your lat growth. From there, pull the bar down towards your lower sternum, think nipple line, by driving your elbows back in towards your pockets. Your back should remain in the same position throughout the entire movement. Make sure to keep your elbows at about 45 degrees, as tucking them any further would prevent the traps from working properly, whereas flaring them too much will take the lats out of the movement, putting more load on the rear delts. Another pitfall to avoid is letting the weight fall straight back to the ground without control. We recommend aiming for a 3-second eccentric with each rep. This is a great way to add more time under tension, while also working your spinal erectors isometrically. Another common mistake for this exercise is going too heavy. For better and safer results, stick to a weight that you can lift in a controlled fashion. The biggest benefit I find with the Pendlay Row versus the traditional barbell row is it places less stress on the lower back, despite our spine being more parallel to the floor. This is because the load that is used with the Pendlay Row is often much lighter than that of the traditional barbell row. A good load to aim for is anywhere from 70 to 90% of your body weight when working in the 8 to 12 rep range. And as mentioned before, if you are finding that your lower back fatigues, simply adjust the setup by placing the bar on blocks or a bumper plate. Number 3.
All right, so number 2, there's going to be some controversy here, because when we talk about isolating exercises that are supposed to be best for you, there's always going to be that word, right? Because it depends on your goals. The Pendlay Row is more supposed to be geared for power development because of its in designed nature. And it is supposed to be a little bit more momentum based. Also, it's not going to be your best base for hypertrophy of the back. Why? The range of motion that you're going through the row. Number 2, there's no support. And that's why it depends, because it's all about your goals. Aesthetics, performance, yes, maybe that is a better option. But for more muscle growth and hypertrophy, you're going to be better off going to a T-bar machine and banging out a chest-supported row, right? So it's going to depend on that. Really comes down to it. And I want to also acknowledge there's so many different varieties because of the row and what your goals are as far as targeting, whether you want to go lats, which is more elbows to pockets, or you want to go rhomboids and upper back, which is going to be more in the pronated and straight back posture. So an exercise that needs to be, and it has more context for, all right? But it's not a terrible option, but there could be better.
Barbell back squat. If you want a big set of legs, you're going to have to do some form of a squat, period. Whether it be with a barbell, kettlebell, or machine. If you want some mass on your legs, you have got to squat. EMG data shows that squats elicit extremely high muscle activity in all of the main lower body musculature, from the quads and hamstrings to the glutes and even the calves. The best thing about the squat is there are so many variations that you're bound to find one that works for you, although personally I don't think you can beat a good old-fashioned barbell back squat. To produce the most amount of force as safely as possible, what we want to do is maximize stability in our setup. And for more information on how to achieve this, check back on our video, The 4 Best Lower Body Workouts for Muscle Growth. Another thing to consider with the squat is depth. It seems that the deeper you go, the more leg activation you get. Research comparing shallow squats versus deep squats shows a direct correlation between leg muscle activation and squat depth. That said, we recommend going only as low as you can before experiencing discomfort. If you're struggling with lower body mobility and want to squat a bit deeper, be sure to check out our video, The Only Squat Mobility Workout You Need. Another tip to help you squat lower is to place a small plate under your heel. Due to differences in morphology, some people are better suited to squat than others. Placing a small plate under your heel leads to more plantar flexion of the foot and ultimately a more upright and stable posture throughout your squat. So there you have it, the only 3 exercises you need.
All right, and so number 3, I like. We need a squat variation, but the only issue is with the population he's asking about, because men over 40 are often not looking for PRs in a squat. And if you're trying to get excessive load and try to get the ramp up on the weight, yes, a barbell back squat becomes the most efficient, right? Easy to load, easy to get down there. But the problem is most men over 40 have horrible mobility. They don't have a lot of time. They also don't have a lot of loading capabilities, and it's more prone to injury. So it's finding the right squat pattern for you. And often what I do prescribe to men over 40 is a loading variation, but it's all dependent on, it could be even a heels elevated trap bar squat. Yes, you're pulling, but still can be a good squat variation for your legs and a lot safer. Or hopping on a hip press or a pendulum squat, more machine-based work, or just if you want cable squats, right? And nobody has ever mentioned that you can't build legs with single leg squats. You can, okay? Research has shown. So safer, more effective, more caloric burn and expenditure because you're working 2 versus 1, and you don't have to worry about excessive loading. So while I like the squat, it's not the wrong choice, but there's got to be more context here, because if you're looking at men over 40, there's definitely better options that can put them in a safer spot for injury, because that's one of the things that he wanted to say that actually he's trying to avoid.
To build muscle, specifically for men over 40. Remember, no matter what age you are, the same principles apply. If you progressively overload any muscle over time, it will grow. And to ensure longevity, we must stay safe and injury-free to the best of our ability. On top of training safely and effectively, we must also keep other lifestyle factors in order. This means taking recovery as seriously as your training. Sleep 7 to 9 hours per night. Eat a sufficient amount of protein.
All right, great video. Just my insights. A little bit, like I said, it's such a hard video to make a certain topic on when you only got 3 exercises, but he did a good job. I like it, and I hope you guys found this little bit of a critique well worth watching.